The Golden Knights are behind the pace of where they were a season ago at this point through 40 games. We'll have our discussion next right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We appreciate you doing so. Find us wherever you get your podcast, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. We are brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Use the promo code Locked On, and you will get $20 off of your first purchase. So, Chris, last night you sent me some comparables through 40 games from a season ago. And VGK at this point a season ago had 54 points. This season, 51 points. And so they're a little bit behind the pace of a season ago. And this is before they went into a little bit of a tailspin, right? Before the All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the fact that the Golden Knights are only 3 points off of where they were last year from a year-over-year perspective, that's not too bad. The Golden Knights currently rank second in the Pacific, 4 points between them and Vancouver right now. That's starting to get some separation. They're basically tied with the Kings when you factor the points percentage. Still watching Edmonton at 7-3 and Seattle at 8-0-2 in their last 10 games, watching them climb the standings. One thing to look at is, why are the Golden Knights a little bit behind the pace? So the first thing I pulled up here is the game report from game number 38 last season, I want to say. This was against the Anaheim Ducks. Golden Knights looks like they dropped this one 3-2. I don't know if it was overtime or who cares, doesn't matter. But here's some of the secondary names that were in this lineup to give you an idea of what the Golden Knights were going through this time last year. Dorofeev is in the lineup. And remember, that'll be one of his earliest games in the NHL. Keep that in mind. Ben Hutton's in the lineup, so someone's out on the defense. Phil Kessel's in the line, is in the game. Lecision dressed, Miramanov dressed, Pahal dressed. So the Golden Knight defense was decimated this time last year too. Ronbjerg is in the game as well. So that right there just gives you a glimpse of the Golden Knights were going through something similar this time last year. Just going to pull up one more random game, game 33 against the New York Islanders, to see how long this little injury funk was happening. So this game, that's the Islanders. Here's the Golden Knights. Lecision, Miramanov, Ronbjerg. So the Golden Knights were going through a similar injury spell this time last year. Maybe it's a little worse this year, obviously being without half of the goalie tandem. So long story longer, it's explainable. If you're looking at this from you run a department in a big business perspective, you have a reason for your sales being a little bit down year over year.
And so VGK, right before the All-Star break last year in January, went 2-8 and then had that 4-game losing streak as part of it. Could you see, once everyone is back and the entire lineup returns from injuries and stuff, can you see this team becoming a team that could have a pretty good jump after the break?
I mean, let's talk about before the break first. These next 10 games aren't easy, guys. Colorado, Boston, Rangers. Pittsburgh's going to be a tough game regardless of how they're doing. And then you have 2 back-to-back road trips in a row in New Jersey, and then Islanders the next nights. Yeah. 2 days off, and then in against the New York Rangers next night against the Red Wings. So that encompasses the next 10 games. The next 10 games, they gotta, 6-4 really needs to be the target so they don't fall too far behind. Now, after the All-Star break, can this team turn it on? Edmonton, Arizona, Minnesota, Carolina, San Jose, Nashville, Toronto, Ottawa, Toronto, Boston. So the first half of February, it's pretty, I'm not going to say soft. There's no soft games anymore in the NHL, but it's a little more favorable than the next 10 games in January. The concern is if the Golden Knights have to turn it on. Like, there wasn't any concern about them missing the playoffs last year. It was, are they going to win the Pacific? Yes or no? And obviously we know how that story turned out. There's a different level of concern right now, which hopefully will have optimism the moment Adin Hill gets back in the nets. And then some of the other reinforcements start to come back.
You know what concerns me is earlier in the season, again, so under Cassidy, quick start, little lull, and then closing kick, right? That's what we saw season one. It's about where we're at right now. What is
Which he's done that in Boston a lot too.
What's concerning to me right now is that VGK isn't banking any points, even in losses. So they're not getting into the extra period. They're not even getting the 1 point. These are regulation losses. And that to me has been a bit of a concern so far.
No, it's a fair concern. And the Pacific Division, very well, that last week might be a 5-horse race for the top, or at least a 3-horse race. And who those 3 horses are going to be, nobody knows right now, because Seattle and Edmonton have inserted themselves back into the equation, so to speak. And they're not going to stop. I mean, Edmonton's not going to stop, I don't think. I'll say this again. It's probably about the time last year I started saying this. Their goaltending and defense is getting things done right now. The goaltending and defense is coming around in Edmonton, which is going to make them a lethal, threat, not just for the Pacific, but for the Stanley Cup. As crazy as it sounds with the way things started, Seattle's looking like the team that got within a couple of goals of going against the Golden Knights in the conference final. And then obviously you have the Kings, who have fixed a lot of their defensive issues. They can't win at home, but they fixed a lot of other things. And then the Vancouver Canucks, I don't think anyone expected what's happening. And the fact that we're at game 40 for both teams and they've separated themselves by 4 points with the Golden Knights, that's, they've earned the respect. They've earned the respect. They've earned where they are. And it's going to be interesting to see how these, now this is where last season is going to help the Golden Knights, right? This is where this deep playoff run, Stanley Cup championship, the Golden Knights did something that 31 other teams did not do. They also learned something 31 other teams did not learn about what it takes to win a championship and get to that point. So there's another gear coming from the Golden Knights. Will injuries prevent them from getting to the additional gear, to getting to third or fourth gear, though, I guess is the biggest thing.
What teams are doing currently, Chris, and you watch this team very closely there at the press box. And again, you go to practices, you talk to players and what have you. Teams are starting to adapt, if you will, to the neutral zone and defending that part of the ice and not allowing VGK to get the odd man rushes as much, right? And they're not getting a lot of these transition type of goals. And so, again, they have to work it. They're going, again, below the net, and they're having to work it from down low to high. It's a different type of mentality. You have to, again, credit Bruce Cassidy with these adjustments, but teams are also adapting, particularly in the West, to the Bruce Cassidy system, right?
Of course, and Cassidy certainly has a unique system starting on the defensive side that prevents the odd man rushes and is a little more goalie friendly, maybe not as of late, but that's what it's supposed to be. And then on the flip side, yes, the Golden Knights are, I don't know how you even measure rush statistics, but they're going to be one of the best teams off the rush. They're going to be one of the best and quickest teams at getting the puck from point A to point B, point A being the Golden Knights defensive side, point B being the Golden Knights offensive side. That's been something that this team has done since season number 1, and it just has some little slight changes through the 3 different coaching regimes now. So the way, and this will obviously come into the third segment as well, but they have to find additional ways to score, whether it's on the cycle, whether it's creating more power play opportunities. And, Alec Martinez, not a name you're going to talk about scoring a lot of goals. Zach Whitecloud, Nick Hague. But those players need to find ways to do a little bit more in the absence of Shea Theodore. And you don't have a Ben Hutton in the lineup who does have a little bit of that rush ability. You don't have Daniil Miramonov, who was contributing from the defense this time last year. Maybe Lucas Cormier is that guy, but another topic for another show that we were talking about today. The Golden Knights had 10 defensemen on the ice yesterday for practice. 2 of them, I think, were in red jerseys, but still, point being is all of a sudden now there's some options.
Way to
on
blow
the back,
tomorrow's show topic right there, Golick. You're great.
Did you put that on the napkin? Is that on the napkin?
That's on the napkin. Okay.
Yeah. So, who's going to take the reins and run with it? This is something Cassidy says in so many different post-game press conferences. There's opportunity right now. There's opportunity for someone to grab onto this position. And, Pahal isn't the guy. He's knocked down the depth chart pretty quickly. Maybe Korczak was the guy, but he's been out for an extended period of time. Maybe Miramonov will become that guy, but he's coming off an ACL issue, which we finally got confirmation of that from Cassidy in the post-game press conference yesterday. That takes a lot of time. Cassidy himself, I think him and Pacioretty did the same thing. They tore both their ACLs, if I'm not mistaken. Quick note, Pacioretty first assist with the Washington Capitals, I believe yesterday or the night before. So congrats to him. Hopefully he keeps his ACLs intact.
For sure. And coming up next, Adin Hill returns this week for the VGK. How will Bruce Cassidy utilize his goaltenders? What will the rotation be? We'll talk about that when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights. You can score right now and into the postseason with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook right now. All new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to do it than right now as we go into the postseason. Point spreads, player props, totals, and much, much more. You could find it all on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off this NFL postseason. FanDuel, the official partner of the National Football League. Welcome back. Locked On Golden Knights, Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. We appreciate you making us your first listen each and every day. Thank you so much for doing so. You could find us wherever you get your podcast, including Odyssey right there, of course, and Apple and all sorts of places. Yeah. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering each and every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. For Bruce Cassidy, the Boston game, I think, is bigger, right? Emotionally, of course, he is invested in that franchise and all that. And Adin Hill gets his
brings
return.
Him up one out of every 3 press conferences.
Yeah, for sure. Talks about how lame that shootout shot was by Pasternak. He's so lazy last night, which we'll talk about, of course, in depth on tomorrow's show. So Adin Hill returns, game back against the Bruins. I think they'll play him in the Bruin game on Thursday. I don't know what your thoughts are. I think LT starts on the first end in Colorado because I'll tell you what, Georgiev for the Avs is not very good right now. He broke his stick last night. He was pretty fired up. And so Hill 10-2-2, 1.93, 933 save percentage and all of that. I think he was in net, right? 7-0 win against the Avs. Wasn't that? Yeah, I think that was his game. In any event,
they didn't have a goalie that game.
They didn't need a goalie that game. In any event, how do you think it shakes out here with Adin Hill's return this week?
I mean, you have a 2-day gap between potential starts from the Colorado game to the Gary game. So you could argue that Coach Cassidy's going to want to get Hill back into the rotation. Starts on Wednesday, comes back on Saturday. Logan goes on Thursday against Boston. And
you think LT against Boston?
Goalie. Well, wow. I'm throwing out options right now. I'm just spitballing for a second.
Okay.
So the concern with doing that, number one, you got Colorado, you got the elevation, you got the fatigue factor, you got all these little extra nuances about playing a game in Colorado.
What's a nuance? That was
something annoying.
No. That was my Vegas Bjorn. Remember Vegas Bjorn?
No, I don't.
They asked him in the postseason about nuances with the team. What's a nuance? Go
Wow,
ahead.
I had no idea. That's pretty awesome. That wasn't even scripted right there, guys.
No, nothing
So
is other than
no, never
napkin
napkins.
notes, maybe.
So you have all these weird things about Colorado. Now you have a goalie who's played 6 minutes in the last month or something like that before he re-injured himself. So I could see, just based off of that, they might not want to roll Adin Hill out in Colorado. And the other side of that, credit to Ken and Sinbin for this perspective, but it's a back-to-back scenario. At least you have a fresh goalie on Thursday. One of the players on the team is fresh, especially Adin Hill, who obviously wouldn't have played in XYZ number of games. So it wouldn't surprise me if Hill wasn't even on the active roster for Wednesday's game and Patera backed up just to be on the safe side. And then obviously Thursday is when Hill gets back in the rotation. If Hill goes Thursday against Boston, I think Logan goes Saturday against the Flames, Calgary. And then Monday's game against the Preds, it's a weird game. It's a 3:00 game. So earlier start, shorter turnaround. I could see however it happens. I think in the next 4 games, each goalie gets 2 starts unless one goalie gets hurt, which is always in play. And then after that, there's a 6-game sprint to the All-Star break. I think each goalie gets 3 starts there too. I think it's 50-50. Definitely be a good conversation if Hill doesn't have a successful start, because Coach Cassidy will put it out there what the rotation is after Thursday's game.
LT could definitely have one more good game, coming off of the W against the Islanders. Could have been a confidence builder of sorts. He's now 12-8-3, I believe. He's already played in 24 games, and the 2.83 goals against average, 902 save percentage for LT. A season ago, he started 36 games, I believe, right?
It was 36 or 37 appearances, because there might have been
appearances.
There,
okay,
close enough.
Yeah. So where do you think he's at as far as the number of starts and whatever on LT compared to a season ago? He's ahead of,
as far as total number of games played year over year. Is that what you're asking me? I can get you that number in a second here, but I think just to talk about where he's at in general is the bigger question. So Cassidy has mentioned many times about how the goalies want to play. Hill wants more starts. Adin wants more starts. That's obviously what goaltenders want, but is Logan ready to make that transition? Is Logan ready to take on this extra workload? And, right now the answer is he's not checked that box yet. I mean, you said 902. He came into this run, I think, in the 920s, 910s, I want to say. Yeah. There's a big difference there. Go ahead for a second, Tony. I'll get you some numbers.
Okay. So, LT, I think he's got one good start left in him. I definitely would play LT first on Wednesday in Colorado, and then I would come back with Adin Hill. And maybe
Adin Logan Hill looks like 29. I'm sorry, Tony.
You think maybe Adin Hill gets back-to-back starts? I wouldn't. If he plays well in that first game, I think he'll come back against Calgary.
Against the Flames, yes. From that perspective, I would agree with. I thought you meant will he go like the Monday, Tuesday against New Jersey and the New York Islanders? So real fast, last year, let's use January 7th as our benchmark. Logan had 29 total appearances by that point, whereas this season now, we're in the 40th game of the season. Logan has actually had less games at 24 appearances, but that's also a skewed number because Logan has started, 10 of the last 11, 11 of the last 12, 10 of the last, whatever the number is, Logan has started a ton of games. So it's I don't know what it is with Logan, like why it's been tougher on him this year. The defense hasn't done him a lot of favors. We've talked about that so often, obviously.
Mentally too.
There's something going on. There's something going on there. It's clear as day. Anyone who's around the team for 30 seconds can see it. And and so what if there is like that? I mean, people struggle at their job. People struggle at their job, whether it's being paid as a professional athlete or whether you're running a poker room or whether you're taking orders at a restaurant or you're a waiter or like, it doesn't matter. People struggle on their job and they have things going on. And it's important for people to acknowledge that sports athletes, me and Tony and everyone else, we're all human. It happens. And it's okay. And, just like professional sports is to any other job, you're learning, you're looking to get better, you're trying to get promoted, you're trying to make more money and all the things that's important to you. So,
and if you're me, you're trying not to drool on the show. You're trying not to drool.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
No, somebody on YouTube took a good shot. That was a good run. Good run.
So no, okay. So let's frame this entire thing. So you actually had a lot of comments really fast, Tony, as we completely.
I'm sure they were all terrific. It's not Friday yet, but okay. Go ahead.
There are some good ones though. What really got everyone's attention, Tony, you're not gonna believe this. But, first of all, kind of what Tony's referencing. First of all, we got a great comment on. I think it was from Eric Smith on YouTube. Little Chris rules and Tony drools. So I'll endorse that. But funny. Tony, you got, let's see here. You got like 4 or 5 references about Kolesar's big old booty in comments.
I mean,
let's see here. Kolesar doesn't have a big old booty, and he did a great screen there. Big old booty, and then goal. Stop talking about Kolesar's booty. So Tony, there you go. Booty is a good trigger word for
booty's rocking everywhere. Yeah,
it's going to get us higher in the algorithm. So say booty more often on Locked On Golden Knights, Tony.
More often. Coming up next, algorithm. We will transition from big old booties to why does VGK have to work so hard, Chris, to score goals?
They need more big old booties in front of the net.
Bruce Cassidy offered some insight yesterday, and we'll talk about that next, right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Gametime, the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. Myself and Chris, we both use it. Gametime has deals on tickets right up until the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It is the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals on everything going on in the city here in Las Vegas and everywhere else, on the NHL, on football, on basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and much, much more. And with zone deals, you pick the section, and Gametime will pick the seats. It's an average of 18% savings. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Create an account. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Use the redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. You will get $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. We are back from Las Vegas. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick reporting. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And don't forget, it's Locked On Golden Knights. And on Fridays, WTF, which rapidly approaches each and every week. These weeks just zip by. And on Saturday, it's the Chris and Chris show. And little Chris had a little bit of a mic drop in the last show there, which is on YouTube and exclusive. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I got some stats that just kind of crossed my mind, and now I want to prove it. And
go do it.
No, so really fast here. The topic of this segment is goals are not easy to come by, and Tony will talk more about what Cassidy had to say. But looked really fast at the Golden Knights here. I wanted to see how many Golden Knights were in double digits as far as goals scored on the year. And right now it's 4. Barbashev is at 9 goals. He's right there. I was curious how that transferred to the other teams in the Pacific, but it's really right in line. Kings only got 5 goal scorers that are 10 and greater. Seattle only 3. So, okay. Oilers only 5, but one of those, Zach Hyman is 25 goals. Jeez. Where McDavid only has 14, but he's got 40 assists already. Good God. Canucks got 7 players with 10 or more goals. So I don't know. I guess maybe that wasn't the stat I was looking for. But Little Chris had a great mic drop that involved him grabbing probably a 6-pound Stanley Cup and just dropping it right on the desk during our show. You got to go back and watch Locked On Golden Knights from this past Saturday, the Chris and Chris show.
It's about the 17-minute mark. 17 minute
17 minutes. Third
Okay.
segment.
Okay. Third segment. Okay. So I was kind of surprised yesterday at the presser by a comment that Bruce Cassidy made. He was pretty loosey-goosey, I thought. He
was
talked
having fun
about
yesterday. He was having fun. He was good.
he talked about the fact, right, Chris, that VGK, and the more you think about this, of course it's true because this is his team and he knows them very well, but this is not a VGK team, as he put it, that has a dominant one-time shooter, which makes so much sense, right? So that means they have to share the puck, and that means they have to do a lot of things away from the puck and find gaps and be a little bit more unselfish, I think, than other teams. He said Jack Eichel is one of the best, but also he's a good passer, the best passer. So maybe he can pass the puck to himself and take the shot. Ha, ha, ha. This is why VGK has to work, though, right? For goals. He said Marchessault can do it once in a while. He can take that shot off of a pass. Although, and he has these subtle digs, though. He goes, yeah, he could take the shot off the pass. Not so much lately, though. Like, what was that dig?
It's Cassidy. I mean, I think
I love it. I think
he's
having
subtle. Fun there.
It's subtle, but the players watch this and he gets the point across, right?
He said something else about when William Karlsson got moved off the line, they were a -2 or something like that. And he's like, oh, what about that one, coach? Like he was like talking to himself in the third person. And it was Cassidy was having fun yesterday. It's good to see. I mean, those press conferences, the practice ones are gold, but they don't get as much, as many views as the game ones. So, yeah, I mean, looking at the lineup as far as the one-timers, Marchessault, okay, fine. I mean, Eichel, yes. Marchessault, he has it, but it's not a lethal one-timer by any means.
You mentioned Nick Hague, Shea Theodore?
Shea Theodore I was going to end with, but yeah, Nick Hague.
Oh, you're going to end? Okay.
Has that shot.
Go ahead, you're fine.
Nick Hague has that shot, but he doesn't get himself in those areas. That's not his game. So Shea Theodore does have that one-timer. It's not I mean, it's a good shot. It's not as big as like some other defenseman shots could be, but it's a smart shot.
I think I just drooled. I just drooled.
That's fine. That's okay. I said William Karlsson. He started drooling. But the Golden Knights, like you said, find the gaps, find the soft spots, find the areas. And this isn't as much about the players doing this stuff as much as it is Cassidy finding ways to tinker the lines so players can complement each other in the right way. This is why I thought Ivan Barbashev's game really went to another level with Mark Stone and Jack Eichel on the ice together, because Mark Stone commands that presence in front of the net. Jack Eichel creates the time and the space. All Barbashev has to do is find that soft spot, and he was finding those soft spots, whether it was rebounds, one-timers, and stuff along those lines. So now you look at the second line where you have Marchessault, you have Barbashev, and you have Chandler Stevenson. Or no, Mark Stone. Hold on. Who's on the second line? Second line, I'm sorry. Second line is now Stevenson, Stone, Dorofeev. Yeah. And Dorofeev has goals in consecutive games right now. And you had that tremendous tic-tac-toe goal against the Islanders where literally the second pass, I think it was Mark Stone's pass, all it did is hits Dorofeev's stick, and he didn't have to do anything. It was that great of a play right there. As far as the biggest thing for me about goals not being easy to come by, it's the secondary scoring. I don't care how the team scores, breakaways, rushes, one-timers, power, whatever it is, but you need players like Nick Waugh, who got 2 goals against the Islanders. You need Dorofeev to continue his scoring touch. Brett Howden needs to get a few more goals. He needs to get on the board. Mike Amadio is having a good season, but now he's down as the fourth line center. We'll see how that's going to shake out. Paul Cotter is kind of buried down there too. And you got a player like Denisenko, who's not a fourth line winger. I'm not saying he deserves to be higher in the lineup, but Denisenko is not a fourth line energy role player. If you had Denisenko up on the first or second line, you'd see a different version of him, but there's many better players on this roster to take on that role. So putting a bow on my side of this, secondary scoring will fix everything with the goals not being easy to come by.
At least one time a game, I really would like to see Jack Eichel just let it rip from that left circle. At least once a game. Just let it rip. I don't care. Just put the puck on net. That's the
Yeah,
most lethal shot this team has right now.
as
What
long as
about that?
there needs to be a bit of traffic sometimes, but yeah, I'm with you on that. I would like to see
And
more of that.
what about that Brisson guy?
He's on Cassidy's radar, and it's funny you mentioned that. It's funny that Cassidy mentioned that too, because I
It's
feel
funny
like
that he called him
Cassidy.
Brisson.
And no, that's just standard operating procedure nowadays when you listen to the way Cassidy says the names of this team. But I thought, and I could be wrong, I thought Cassidy mentioned Denisenko before he came up not too long ago. So, and Cassidy did reference Brisson as when he gets his chance at this level. He said it like that. Does that mean it's coming this season? I don't know. The way things are going with the injuries, it probably is going to happen some point this season. But, you can't help but not to look at the future of this team right now. You got the core in place for a long time in Stone, Eichel, Pietrangelo, Carlson. Those players are going to be here for a while. Shea Theodore, Zach Whitecloud. But this next crop of players that's coming up, who's a lot cheaper as far as AAV goes, in Brisson, in Dorofeev, in Lucas Cormier. Jake Bischoff is someone else on the defensive level who could make an impact at this level. You still have like Ron Bjerg down there who is good when needed. So you almost wonder what the path could be this offseason or sooner if things don't go well for the Golden Knights in these next, 18 or so games.
We appreciate everyone tuning in.
Put that on a napkin, Tony. That could be a topic. If I don't write about it today.
Coming up on tomorrow's show, we will preview VGK in Colorado against the Avalanche. And then, of course, I'll talk about the rig schedule because they should have been playing a game here first and then traveling on the road. Hey, I'm funnier than Joe Coy.
Talking about the schedule, he puts me asleep.
Bro, we're funnier.
I
think overall, we're definitely funnier than Joe Coy. His stand-up there on the Golden Globes, which
I like the fact that he just said F everybody and said
he
the
just
joke
bombed.
Saying my own. I thought that was good.
He just
bombed. I like him. I never knew who he was before that.
We do this daily. We bomb daily. We appreciate the everyday.
The numbers show.
Thanks for helping us out here along the way with all of your comments. I'll promise you I won't drool on tomorrow's show. And of course, make sure that you tune in to WTF on Fridays, What the Friday, with all of your comments and such. The Chris and Chris Show, that appears on Saturdays exclusively on the YouTube channel. For my man, Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco from Las Vegas. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Take care.